Here are the pros and cons of living in Norcross, Georgia. One thing that brings a lot of people to this city and a big pro of living here is the downtown area. Lots of great local mom and pop shops there that you don't find in other places really makes downtown Norcross very unique. In addition to that, the railroad and the train goes right by. Those two things tend to go hand in hand. The train goes right by downtown Norcross. And so there's a shop there that used to be like the old train station that they've converted into a kind of shopping and restaurant. And so it really still has that old time feel, that historic charm. You can still find that in downtown Norcross. And this is really a big benefit of living in the area. Lots of people tend to go there in the evenings and weekends. It's a very popular place to visit during those times of day. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the surrounding areas. Another pro of living in Norcross is the fact that it's so centrally located to like everything. It's super close to Atlanta and Alpharetta and Lawrenceville. It's also really close to like Lake Lanier. And so where it's located really makes it a very popular place to live. Very often people who live in Norcross work in Atlanta, and unlike many other suburbs where there typically is like one way into Atlanta and one way out, when you live in Norcross and you work in Atlanta, there's actually quite a few different options to be able to get around that rush hour traffic. Interstate 85, Buford Highway, and Peachtree Industrial Boulevard all kind of go from that Norcross area to Atlanta, which makes it super convenient. Ideally, you don't have to get into that rush hour traffic. Of course, we do have a traffic problem here in Atlanta, but it certainly helps to have so many options. And then not only is it super easy to access Atlanta from Norcross, but you also can get away from the big city very easily because it's outside of the perimeter. It's outside of Interstate 285. And so a quick drive to areas like Lake Lanier or to Buford or Milton. And so the location of Norcross is really a big draw for many people. Another pro of living in Norcross is the home prices here. If you're thinking about buying a home in Norcross, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm the one who answers those phone calls, those text messages, those emails, and I'd be happy to help with your moving needs to the Metro Atlanta area. But the average home price in Norcross is about $375,000. This is a huge deal, especially when like the average in all of Metro Atlanta is closer to like 450. To be able to find homes at 375, even homes that like in the low 300s. There are many homes that are being sold in Norcross for like 300 even. This is like unheard of compared to some of the other suburbs of Atlanta. So to be able to be so centrally located, easy access to Atlanta, to all these other very popular places, and to be able to find a home for 300,000 is mind-blowing. I still can't believe that more people aren't moving to Norcross because of this. And so it kind of feels like a hidden secret when you live in Norcross, still have all of that affordability, the downtown area. Definitely a big pro of living in Norcross. Another big benefit of living in Norcross is the racial diversity that you can find here. According to the website norcrossga.net, the white population in Norcross is 20.4, the Black or African American population in Norcross is 23%, the Asian population is 13%, the Hispanic population is 39%. So when you look at all of the suburbs of Metro Atlanta, you see that Norcross is one of the most diverse in all of Metro Atlanta. And it's no coincidence that it's so centrally located and it has the most racial diversity. These all kind of go hand in hand. There are so many great things about living in this area, and this racial diversity is definitely a big pro of living here. And then another pro of living in Norcross, and then we're going to get into the cons, the downsides of living in this city. But another big pro that brings a lot of people here is the parks, the green space. We have Lillian Webb Park right around the city center there, Thrasher Park and Pinnacle Park, just to name a few. Definitely lots of other parks in Norcross. And so this is something that is really important to many people, and you can definitely find plenty of parks in Norcross. Now let's get into the downsides of living in Norcross, because you really need to know the whole picture if you're planning on moving to any city in Metro Atlanta, especially Norcross. You need to have the whole picture so that you can be completely informed about where you're considering moving to. So some of the downsides of living in Norcross, first of all, is the age of like the homes and the commercial areas. Norcross is a city that was established long time ago, not by any means a recently established city. So Norcross has a lot of age to it, and the average homes there were built in like the 70s and the 80s. This is really when Norcross had a big boom in population. So the homes there can be a bit outdated. Of course, we have a lot of people who have remodeled homes, and this is great, but you still are getting a home with 70s or 80s bones. And then the commercial areas, especially like the downtown part of Norcross, all of those buildings are super old, and so they still have that historic charm to them. But if you're looking for like a modern kind of feeling area, like maybe downtown Alpharetta, you're not really going to find that in Norcross. It definitely has that old feel to it, kind of a little bit outdated. And so certainly something to think about. Another con of living in Norcross is that while it is centrally located to many things, some people would say it's too close to Atlanta. So if you're wanting to be close to Atlanta, then great. Norcross is a great place for that. But if you're wanting to distance yourself from the big city of Atlanta, like if you're wanting to live in the suburbs that are super far out, and you are in a quiet area, like small town feel that's super far from Atlanta, Norcross is the exact opposite. Norcross kind of has a more densely populated feel to it. So two very different kinds of Atlanta suburbs. Another con is the amount of industrial areas that you can find in Norcross, especially along like Jimmy Carter Boulevard and Interstate 85. Around that intersection, lots of big industry in that area. So of course, these kinds of things bring like pollution or air pollution, the noise, and so this is definitely a downside for many people. And one reason why some people avoid Norcross is because of the amount of like industrial areas that you find here. And then another downside of living in Norcross is the infrastructure. Again, Norcross was built a long time ago. So the infrastructure was built a long time ago, and the age of that infrastructure is kind of starting to show, and you really start to see that we're kind of past the prime of this infrastructure. Old roads, old power lines, maybe some of the areas, some of the homes don't have high-speed internet because the infrastructure here was made for decades ago. And so really, the city of Norcross has quite a bit of catching up to do when it comes to infrastructure. Another downside is the public transportation here. Really not going to find any kind of public transportation. Even being so close to Atlanta, the public transportation is not so good here. You're going to definitely be car dependent in the city of Norcross. And so if you're thinking about moving to the city of Norcross, you really got to get a good feel for what the city is like. And the best way to do that is to kind of like come and visit and like walk through the downtown area, get a feel for what the people are like, what the areas are like. But of course, if you live in a different state or a different country and you're watching these videos, it can be difficult to come all the way to Norcross just to like walk the streets and see what it's like. So I actually made an entire video where I went on a tour of the city, walked through downtown Norcross and some of the parks in that area. We saw some of the homes there so that you can get a better feel for what the city of Norcross is like. You can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.